Tucker DeVries is officially out for the rest of the season. We all kind of assumed that was going to be the case, but it was announced today by Coach DeVries and the WVU basketball program that Tucker DeVries is officially out for the rest of the season and will have shoulder surgery, and they're going to attempt to get a medical red shirt. So that's the plan. Again, I think that's what we all expected. The surgery, with not the surgery part of it, but I think we all expected him to miss the rest of the year and for him to try to get a medical red shirt. But again, it was officially announced today by the school and the team and the staff. So, Jonathan, what are your thoughts on that announcement about Tucker DeVries? And, to add on to that, how much do you think it hurts the team going forward, if at all?
Well, I would just say in terms of how it hurts them, obviously his presence is missed. But I think we're at a point in the season where they have taken the next step of just listen. I think they knew they were not getting him back. The players, I think that was generally the assumption. And I would argue of everybody, us on the show.
Yeah. Yep.
So I don't think it helps not having him, but I will say that I think this team has adjusted and has become accustomed to not having him. So as West Virginia continues the season and attempts to make a run in the Big 12 tournament, and hopefully the NCAA tournament, obviously missing him is going to be critical. In terms of the team, I think that they have, again, he's played 8 games. He's been out for a while now. And so I think they have adjusted. I mean, I don't know that you and I would have had 5-5 in the conference and 14-7 on the bingo card without Tucker at this stage in the season and beating who they've beaten. But in terms of the decision to shut him down, I don't think we're surprised, because we have said on this very show that was pretty much the expectation, right? I guess the glimmer of good news there is that they are going to apply for that medical waiver and red shirt and try and have him back next season, which this kind of puts a little stain on this season, and I'm not looking ahead, but it does give you a little bit of excitement going into next year. If that shoulder can get healed, that's a huge piece coming back in year 2. So again, hate it for the season this year, but I don't think anybody's surprised. I don't think we're surprised. The bigger concern for me is, and we've talked about this, Couz, this team is, while they're playing well, and I thought they rebounded against Cincinnati on Sunday, they're really thin, and they're riding a really thin line right here of foul trouble, injuries, sickness. Their margin for error right now is extremely, extremely thin. And so you just have to take it game by game, day by day, really, that nothing goes wrong. And we'll see where the season goes.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, we kind of expected it. I'm sure the players, they may have known this was coming for a while, so like you mentioned. So I don't see it affecting them too much. Look, this team's shown that they can get to 14 wins and 5-5 in conference play up to this point without him. So I don't, they've beaten Kansas without him. They've beaten Iowa State without him. They've won a lot of big games without him. So I don't expect that to stop today. And when you look ahead at the schedule, which we'll talk about in a minute, they got the favorable part of the schedule, if there is one in the Big 12, is coming up in the second half of the Big 12 slate.
Yeah.
So it does get a little easier, at least, again, it's all on paper, right? It does get easier. They don't play Iowa State again. They don't play Kansas again. They don't play Houston again. Those 2 games are behind them. Their toughest 2 games remaining are Baylor and Texas Tech.
Yeah.
So, and both of those, in my opinion, are winnable.
Yeah.
Texas Tech's playing really good right now, but I think it's a winnable game. So there's not a game left on the schedule you look at and go, they're not winning that one like I did with Houston.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I did with Iowa State too, and they shocked me on that one. So
yeah.
again, it's very possible this team goes out and wins the next 5 games. I don't expect that to happen, by the way, but it's very possible they do it even without Tucker because they're so accustomed to playing without him at this point. It is what it is. I mean, he hasn't played since December, sometime in early December. So I don't think it's that big a deal, other than the fact that what you talked about, they are thin.
Yeah.
But that's been known. It's been there. It's been that elephant in the room, if you want to call it that, whatever. I don't know what the right terminology is, but it's the concern has been there from since the first game he missed.
Yeah, and they are thin, but you are seeing even like you're seeing a collection of these guys really step up, and it's a different player. I mean, Joseph Yesufu coming in against Cincinnati and having the game that he had when they needed it. So Eduardo Andre has been huge. Hansberry's been big at times, and then Javon Small, holy cow! What can you say? I think Sunday against Cincinnati really impressed me. That was 2 teams and we talked about this, that the direction of both Cincinnati and West Virginia, they were reeling, both of those teams.
Yep.
They were desperate basketball teams, and you felt kind of like Cincinnati maybe had the edge just because they were at home, and they too were desperate. And for West Virginia to go in there, and it really was kind of convincing, to be honest. They just look like, to me, they look like the better basketball team from the very beginning. And so that was impressive to me to get out of Cincinnati with a win. We talked about this team at the very beginning of the season and what was the floor, what was the ceiling. And I said then, I didn't think 15. I thought they'd win more than 15. I didn't know that they'd get to 20. I said 17 or 18, and they're sitting here with 14 wins. I guess the biggest question, Couz, is what is that magic number to get West Virginia into the NCAA tournament? I think you feel better at that 18-19 than you do that 16-17. Now, their resume is really good. I don't love the Arizona State loss. That one kind of stinks. The Arizona loss and Arizona win looks a little better. So they've beaten some good teams. I like the resume. It's just a matter of what number. Again, ideally 20 is a great number, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
that's a great number. Can they get there? Is there 6 more wins throughout the regular season? And then if you can get 1, maybe, or 2 in the Big 12, I think they can. I would say that the 17-18 is maybe a little bit more likely. But we'll see.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, let's look at the schedule. I've got it up on the screen now for those listening. It's West Virginia's next game, obviously, is against TCU on the road.
And I'll stop you real quick, Couz. That's a game. We're talking about games that, and I'm not throwing out a must-win here, but that's a game compared to where you have been on the road that is a winnable game. TCU's 4-6 in conference. They're just 11-10 overall. They're struggling. Actually, just won. They won the other night at home to get above 500 on the season. So I feel like that's a game, especially with Utah at home and BYU at home. If you could steal one on the road against TCU, you're setting yourself up pretty nice coming back home.
Yep. Yeah, they got TCU on the road Wednesday night, which actually we're recording this on Tuesday, but it'll be out on Wednesday. So they're playing, tonight essentially. And then they have to come back home on Saturday to play Utah. Then they have to go Tuesday, they're back home Tuesday again to face BYU, who's coming into Morgantown on the 11th. Then they have to go to Baylor. Then they're back home against Cincinnati, and that's second game of that's home and home. Then they're going to Lubbock to Texas Tech, who's currently ranked 13th.
Yeah, it's a good basketball team.
Then TCU comes to Morgantown. Then West Virginia goes to BYU and Utah in back-to-back road games in March 1st and 4th, and then they close the season at home against the Golden Knights of against the Knights of UCF. So, yeah, I mean, only one ranked team left on the schedule. Utah's definitely winnable. Cincinnati, we've seen what that happens. Baylor, Baylor worries me a little bit, especially since it's on the road. And BYU's a good team. BYU's a sneaky good team as well. But I mean,
Couz, that stretch of at BYU, at Utah. Hey, we need to go to Utah. There's tickets as low as $3.
I see that. That's crazy.
Isn't
that crazy? Eight to go to TCU. 8 at the home game, TCU home game.
Yeah, we let's make a trip. The at BYU, at Utah. Ideally, you don't love that just because of the travel. You're going to go out on a Friday. You're going to play Saturday, stay Sunday, stay Monday. You're playing Tuesday. That's a decent little trip for West Virginia. But now West Virginia was able to go on the road earlier this year to Colorado and get a win. So,
yep.
They've played pretty well on the road this season. But that's a tough. So 14 wins. The interesting one to me again is against TCU on the road. To me, that's a big one and can get you a little momentum coming home against Utah, who has not had quite the season they've been looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get ahead of myself, but 14, if you could get 15 on the road at TCU, 16 against Utah, you've got 8 or 9 games there where you're trying to get 3 or 4 games. You feel a little bit better if you can steal a couple of these here coming up.
Yeah, you don't want to lose to Cincinnati. You don't want to lose to TCU or Cincinnati because of where they are. You probably don't want to lose to Utah or UCF. I mean, when you look at the conference records, Texas Tech's 8-2 in league play. That's going to be a tough one. Baylor 6-4, BYU 6-4, UCF's 4, and everybody else has losing records. UCF 4-6, Utah 4-6, TCU 4-6, Cincinnati's 2-8 in conference play. So definitely feasible for this team to sneak away out of these last 10 games. I could see them winning 7 or 8 of these games for sure. Yeah. Not saying they will, but I don't think it's unrealistic at all to expect them to win that.
If they split them, Couz, they get to 19 wins going into the Big 12 tournament.
Right.
I feel like 19 wins with who West Virginia's beat, and if you've got 5 more that you can add, and that could be a combination of anybody. I feel like 19 wins. And you've had a heck of a season. I mean, that puts you at 19-12 going into the Big 12 tournament. 1 win maybe get you 20. I think 19-12 probably does it.
You think so?
I think so. I think if you're the closer you are to that 20. I believe I saw during the Cincinnati game, you may not have seen it, correct me if I'm wrong. Last time I saw it, they had West Virginia at a 9 seed going into Cincinnati. I don't know if that win moves you one way or the other. But when I look at who West Virginia has beaten this season, if you get this team to 19 wins, at minimum going into a tournament, I just feel like based off of who they have beaten, I think that's enough. Now that 5, those chances increase significantly if you go to Texas Tech and win.
Absolutely.
At Baylor and win. So, but I think right now, because West Virginia has won against some quality opponents, you're trying to stack wins more than anything right now.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if it's against UCF or if it's against TCU. It doesn't matter. Obviously, you'd like it to come in Lubbock or you'd like it to come in Waco, but you've beaten some quality opponents, and so right now I think you're just trying to stack wins, and I hope you're not looking back and saying that Arizona State game or that stretch of games where you thought it was kind of slipping away from them. But I feel good at 19. And that's if you split.
Yeah, I feel okay at 19, but I feel better. I feel good at 20.
Agree.
Personally, because if you look at where West Virginia's at in the net right now, they're not in a great spot. They're a little lower than I thought because of those. They played some very, very weak opponents in the non-conference that's hurt them. Teams like, Mercyhurst and UNC Charlotte or I'm sorry, UNC. I don't remember who it was. Anyway, the UNC team they played, UNC Central, I think it was.
Yep.
Anyway, you get my point. Some teams that are like in the 200s in the net rankings, they've got like 3 or 4 of those on their schedule, and that hurt them a little bit. But again, they've also won 5 quad 1 games. Not a lot of teams can say that. They're 5-5 in quad 1 games. So they only have 2 losses that aren't quad 1 losses. That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
They have no quad 4 losses. Don't think they have any quad 3 losses, but I'd have to go back and verify that. But so yeah, I mean, I put the resume up against anybody, but again, I just think the Big 12 is not as strong as it has been in the past. That's why 20 makes me feel a lot better. But if you can get 19 and pull off a win or 2 in the Big 12 tournament, then I think you're in. But speaking of the Big 12 tournament, though, when you look at the way it's formatted, the top 4 teams get a bye all the way to the quarterfinal round, basically. Or is it the semifinal round? Anyway, they get a bye through the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
The top 8 teams get a bye through the first round. So, with West Virginia being thin, I'd like to see them at least finish in the top half of the league. And to do that, I think they probably need to I don't know if going 10-10 is going to do it. You probably need to win 12 games, ballpark, to finish in that top half, at least 11.
Yeah.
Before I feel comfortable saying that they'll get a bye at least in the first round. They're not. I don't think they're going to finish in the top 4, but if they can finish in the top 8, I really like their chances a lot better to win a couple games in that tournament.
Yeah, I don't know that they get. I don't know that they get in that top 4, but when you look at that top 8, ironically enough, you're going to be going against some teams. You're battling out in the standings against some teams that you're getting ready to go battle it out with.
Yes, that's a good point.
BYU still on the schedule twice. Baylor on the schedule. UCF on the schedule. Utah on the schedule twice. TCU still on the schedule twice.
Yep.
And that's BYU, Baylor at 6 wins. West Virginia, the only team with 5 wins.
Yep.
And then UCF, Utah, and TCU and Kansas State. But I'm talking about upcoming schedule. Yeah. So you have not only do you have an opportunity here to stack some wins, you've also got an opportunity here to separate yourself a little bit from some of these teams that you're battling it out with to get into that top 8.
Yeah.
But Couz, I look at this West Virginia team and I say they've beaten Gonzaga, they've beaten Arizona, they've beaten Kansas, they've beaten Iowa State. You get me 19 wins, and again, I 100% agree with you. The 20 wins, 21, 20 is a big number on a schedule. If you can get 20 wins, that really sticks out. But I think 19 is that magic number for me with those 4 quality wins. But I think West Virginia, if they got a chance to get into that top 8 and they can steal 1 or 2 in the tournament, I just think you feel pretty good.
And I'll tell you what else, if they get to 19 and they finish the season with 2 or 3 wins in a row,
yeah,
I think that would look really good in the committee's eyes as well. Because, how you finish the season, matters, right? So I think that would be important too. I'd like to see them get hot here, second half of Big 12 play and really finish the season strong. Because I think now if you go out and you win, you come out and win 4 or 5 in a row, and then all of a sudden you lose 4 or 5 in a row to finish the year. That's not going to look good to the committee. But I don't think that's going to happen. But it is possible.
And I'm kind of pleading a case here with a lot of games left. But and what about a scenario here where if you're on the bubble, and I know this could sound crazy, and I'm going to say it anyway at the risk of sounding it, but does West Virginia get a little bit of a nod because of how good Javon Small has been on a national level? Is that somebody that this committee looks at and says, that's a player we want to play in the NCAA tournament? I don't know that a player necessarily gets it done for a team, but if you're starting to separate West Virginia from maybe another school or two or three, and you've got somebody like Javon Small who's up for some national awards, who's Player of the Year awards. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Couz, but is he leading the Big 12 in scoring, or was?
He was. I haven't looked recently, but yeah, he was
Not
for sure.
sure. So is that somebody that you leave out of an NCAA tournament? Now, West Virginia's got to win basketball games, but is that a deciding factor?
I definitely think it matters.
And so you have to feel good there.
I mean, we've heard, and again, it's a different sport, but we've heard the CFP committee talk about individual players, right, and how that factored into their decision making. I would venture to guess. Again, it's a guess because I'm not in the room, but I'd venture to guess that the NCAA tournament committee is having similar conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
you've got two teams that are even, basically.
Yeah.
This team's got a guy who's up for who's one of the best point guards in the country on a national spotlight, leading the Big 12 in scoring. You're probably going to give them the nod over the team who's their best players averaging 13 a game.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
That's a great. I hadn't even thought about that.
So don't know if it makes a huge difference, but I do think it has to matter. Now, again, West Virginia can't be sitting there with 16 wins. They can't be a 500 basketball team at the end of the season and expect that. But if you are sitting at 19, 20, 21 wins or whatever it is, and you're trying to separate on top of West Virginia's wins of some teams that they have beaten, and you've got somebody of Javon Small's caliber and what he has done, I think that's somebody that this committee would want to play in the NCAA tournament.
I 100% agree with you. 100% agree with you. And I do. I
was just going, and I'll say again to reiterate it, what a job West Virginia basketball has done this season with everything that's kind of been thrown at them.
Oh man, it's been amazing.
It really has. And just when you want to roll them out and say they're done, they go. And I'm not trying to sit here and proclaim that Cincinnati has had the season that they want, but to go on the road and get that win with their back against the wall against another team who was kind of fighting for their life, to go and handle that game the way they did and get that win and bounce back. They just continue to fight, and what a season so far.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned a few guys off the top, but I we would be remiss if we didn't mention Sincere Harris before we end this show.
Oh, yeah.
The defense that guy is playing right now is at an elite level. I mean, in an elite level. He's changing games with his defense. And I don't think that can be overstated, to be honest with you. I mean, he's struggling to shoot the three, and it's kind of become a somewhat of a joke, I guess. But man, he does so much on the defensive end. I don't even care. Just, man, let that guy cook on defense, because he is flat out phenomenal, and he loves to play defense. You can tell. He reminds me of Javon Carter, the way he guards,
the
way he puts so much effort and passion and heart into his defense. He's fun to watch, man. He's really fun to watch.
Yeah, and this team has just continued to get contributions from so many players. We talked about Yesufu. We talked about Eduardo Andre. That game against Kansas on the road, he stepped up unbelievable. And then you're relying on a couple freshmen, Jonathan Powell, who's trying to transition his game more of an outside shooter to an overall player. A KJ Tanner, who is undersized.
Yeah.
But boy, he comes in and just fights it. Again, Yesufu on the road against Cincinnati, hitting those threes and scoring the basketball. So it has been somebody different every night. And they've just continued to fight, and they've done really well. 14 wins with not having Jaden Stone all season, not having Tucker for a large portion of the season is just been a remarkable job.
Yeah. Lamani was out 2 games. They had guys with the flu for a couple games. I mean, Javon's gotten banged up. KJ Tanner missed a game or a couple games.
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh, man. Joseph Yesufu apparently has been dealing with some personal issues, they said, in his life. And he comes out and balls out. I mean, just the grit and the I don't even know basically any word you can think of to describe them that's positive. They've got it. I mean, it's just it's pretty remarkable. I'm very, very, very impressed with the fortitude is the word I was looking for. The fortitude they show week in, week out. You mentioned Tanner. Do you notice when he's in the game, he always gets his hands on basketballs?
Yeah. Yep.
It doesn't always show up in the stat sheet, but he gets his hands on basketballs. He stays in front of his guy. You don't see guys blow by him a lot. I just think the future is really bright. For this program.
I agree.
How about Darian DeVries' ability to spot talent?
Yeah.
Out of high school.
Yeah.
KJ Tanner had 0 Power 4 offers out of high school. 0. And only had 1 mid-major offer, and it was Drake.
And had enough confidence to say he can play Big 12 basketball too.
Yep. And not only is he playing, he's playing a ton of minutes for a true freshman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Remarkable. Well, Jonathan, anything else to add to this, man, before we sign off?
I don't think so, man. It's good to be back on with you. I know it's a busy time of the year. We've battled through sickness. We've battled through scheduling conflicts, the quote unquote dead period of football and so forth and so on. But it's just good to be back.
Yeah, it's that time of year where, there might be some weeks we don't have a whole lot to talk about. You know what I mean? So we might miss a week or two here and there, but it's all good. We're going to keep doing this show. We enjoy doing it together, and we look forward to bringing you another one next week. In the meantime, go check Jonathan out on X at Jonathan K. Martin, and it's Jonathan with no H, JONATHAN. Check me out at Couz 206. Check out our Gold and Blue Breakdown channel, or our page, I should say, at GB Breakdown _. You can interact with us over there. Check out the Hoops from the Hills channel, the Couz's Corner channel. We're everywhere. And I do, by the way, an announcement here for those of you who haven't heard, I do have a new website on the way. It's in the works as we speak. Hopefully have it up and running in the next couple of weeks, or at least hopefully by March 1st at the latest, just in time for March Madness, hopefully. But I'm looking forward to that. It should be a new and upgraded website. I'm excited about it. And so, yeah, that'll be on the way too. It'll be wvsportschat.com.
Good deal.
So, Anyway, everybody, thank you for tuning into the show. Again, if you're listening on podcast platforms, please give us a 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up button. The YouTube algorithm really likes that. Subscribe to the channel and share it with your family and friends. If they like WVU sports, they might enjoy the show. Thanks again. Hope the rest of your day's top shelf. Spot the ball, hold the rope, play like your hair's on fire, and let's go Mountaineers. And Q Country Roads. I think I left that part out.